What's it like to hunt rare mushrooms in Mexico's cloud forests, surrounded by passionate guides who live and breathe fungi? Imagine this. You're trekking through the cloud forest with a group of fellow mushroom lovers, discovering rare species together and sharing laughs over wild finds. Along the way, you'll connect with local guides who not only know the land but will immerse you in the rich culture of the region. It's not just about the mushrooms, though they are incredible. It's about building friendships, learning together, and experiencing the magic of Mexico in a way you'll never forget. Stick around, because I'm about to show you why this summer's MycoTreks trip is an adventure you won't want to miss. Yo, welcome to the MycoGeeky Podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of mushrooms and the people who love them. From expert cultivators to passionate foragers, we bring you deep conversations, cutting-edge insights, and everything mycology. Whether you're a seasoned mycophile or just curious, we invite you to geek out with us on the wonders of fungi and join the mushroom movement. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the MycoGeeky Podcast, where geeking out over fungi is encouraged. And finding a new species is like discovering a hidden level in a video game, except you're out in the woods and the prize is mushrooms. I'm your host, MycoGeeky, taking you from I'm the only one in my friend group who likes mushrooms to I just found a new species of mushroom in Mexico and now I'm basically a mycological superhero. We got an epic show for you tonight, so grab your lab coat or your favorite hoodie and let's get growing. Today's episode is extra special because we're talking about the MycoTreks trip to Xalapa, Mexico this summer, happening from July 13th through the 20th, 2025. If you've ever dreamed of foraging in one of the most biodiverse and fungally diverse regions on the planet, this is your chance. For just $27.99, that's $200 off with our early bird special through the month of March. You'll join me, Don King, Natural State Mycology, and our expert team of local guides and interpreters as we explore the stunning cloud forests of Xalapa. The trip is all-inclusive, minus airfare, so all you need to do is show up and we got everything else covered for you. And if you need some extra time to save up, you can secure your spot today with just a $500 deposit. But don't just take my word for it. Stick around to hear from the MycoTreks team and our local guides about what makes this journey so unique. It's a week full of adventure, discovery, and connection, not just with the land, but with a community of passionate mushroom lovers just like you. Before we dive in, I want to remind you, this episode is all about you. Whether you're looking to go beyond your usual foraging spots, or you're a cultivator wanting real-world experience hunting the same exotic species you grow at home, this summer's MycoTreks trip is the perfect opportunity. Join a team of 8 experienced mushroom lovers and explore the magic of Mexico's cloud forests. And as always, don't forget to hit subscribe, smash that like button, and let's jump into why this trip to Xalapa is one you won't want to miss. Thank you for joining me today. Wanted to, we gotta let the cat out of the bag about this trip this summer, and wanted to take a second to just powwow the three of us. I don't know, a year and a half ago, something like that. We decided to do something special to create a kind of myco tourist company that was doing something, at least for me. I just wanted it to be 100% focused on the people who are paying to go to the places we're trying to go and cater to them and make them feel special and amazing and thoroughly entertained. And I don't know about you guys, but of course, there are things, little tweaks we're going to make this year. But overall, I honestly, the entire time, couldn't believe how great that first trip went. I just want to hear how you guys feel about that first trip.
My favorite part, just to kind of re-echo the sentiment, my favorite part of the whole thing was just seeing all these people from drastically different walks of life who really, had only chatted briefly beforehand on WhatsApp or on social media and briefly knew each other, came together and really just meshed and clicked in such a short manner of time. And it was amazing to see how well everybody did click, just through that shared passion and love for what we were learning about and exploring. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head by saying, Geeky, that we wanted to create the kind of trip we wanted to take. Like we put our heads together. We spent a long time planning this, right? Like just the overall from the top down, right? From the overall feel that we wanted, the like what how the vibe to getting into the granular with like, okay, now what are we doing on Tuesday? What is exactly happening, and how can we pack as much sort of as much mushroom in as possible? And so yeah, I think it's this 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 was something that we're just passionate about. We wanted this to be about the people who are going on the trip, not about us, our sacrifices or whatever we had to do to make sure that everyone else had the time of their life. That's our job. We knew that going into this. Yes, it's an amazing vacation. We have a lot of fun when we're there too, but it was not for us. This is not a trip for us. This is a trip, this is our opportunity to provide this amazing experience to other people.
Watching everybody find mushrooms, including there were forays where even our guides were getting just geeked out of their minds. That's just priceless for me. Young guys who were just there for an adventure, all the way to completely and utterly retired married couples. But man, I'll tell you, particularly the last big day when we went to the extinct volcano, and you see these older people at the base of what is essentially the steepest incline anybody, I don't care who you are, unless you're a rock climber, it's the steepest thing you've ever climbed up in your life. We did the little powwow at the beginning. We were like, you guys can do this. We're going to be here for you. And the whole time watching the way, by the end of the trip, different people were there for each other, helped everybody get to the top. Some people were definitely, utterly, and completely winded by the time they got up there. And just to see the look on their face, have this experience, it had nothing to do in that moment with mushrooms. It had, for me, everything to do with seeing the friendships that were forming, seeing the way people were helping each other, were having a shared experience. That was, for me, just a really cool moment. Not to mention the fact that I'm sitting there going, I hope everybody makes it up to the top. I'd feel awful if they couldn't.
I got to be honest. I wasn't sure that everyone, not that they wouldn't make it to the top, right? But I wasn't. I was surprised that everyone decided to try to make it to the top. I was just like, okay, this is awesome. Like we had a plan B. There's plenty of places to hike around there at the bottom of that volcano. You do not have to climb up it. But the fact that everybody did it and everybody freaking nailed it. I mean, like, and again, like you mentioned, just the look on the sense of accomplishment, and when they finally made it up, and it took people, obviously a little longer, some people longer than others, but then when they got to just see the view from up there and just experience that, almost everybody said it was their favorite thing, and like Geeky, like you said, this was not a mushroom focused hike. I went there a week before just to see how it was going to work, and like, is this doable? And I remember coming back and saying, yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of mushrooms up there, like a couple. But I think we absolutely need to do this. Like, it's my opinion that, yeah, we can find mushrooms everywhere else, but to do this was like, yeah, it's the hike of a lifetime.
It was amazing. Yeah, that was a blast. And it was so cool seeing, just the local people who run that, that park. They, upon arriving, they greeted us and gave us, an overview of the area. And then as we were departing, we said goodbye to them, and hugs were given, and we were welcomed back with open arms next year. That's always cool to see when the locals are enthralled to have us there. They're excited to have people there, stimulating the economy and just experiencing and immersing ourselves in the local culture, I think.
I mean, less than 1% of all forested land in the world is a cloud forest. It is exceptionally rare. And for me, I remember one of our first hikes, just looking up and just being like, dear God, it's just bromeliads everywhere. It's orchids everywhere. There's this climate, this misty climate. Just everything about it felt so freaking cool and so rare and so special. And then as you start seeing mushrooms you've only heard about, or mushrooms that Gaston Guzman taught you about, but you never thought you were going to see, and then you just see one after another, these precious rare psilocybe mushrooms. And so for me, particularly after this last trip, I was just really felt like, God, we just gotta, if we can get a couple people down here every year to just see what this is all about. And if they can make some connections, if it makes them want to come back again, or if it makes them want to donate money to one of the nature preserves down there, or one of the private landowners down there, if there's anything we can possibly do to just protect this little gem of Mexico, we got to do it. We got to do it. We got to do it.
Well, I mean, that's a big part of what we do with one of our most intense hikes that we do while we're there, of course, is, we're supporting a private landowner that purchased, a pretty large property that contains old growth cloud forest, which is exceedingly rare. They purchased it to protect it, but that's a really difficult mission, to keep land like that pristine. And so yeah, we're trying to bring people there and bring awareness to the fact that that's disappearing.
The first time, that I actually visited a cloud forest in Mexico, where I met these two guys, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, it's Mexico. Like, isn't it going to be hot as hell? What am I doing? But not really thinking. And then you fly into Veracruz and you're like, yeah, it's hot as hell. But then you're going to get the hell out of there and get up into these mountains, and you're going to work up a little sweat on a hike during the day. But yeah, it gets kind of cool at night. I mean, to the point where you might want your windows closed. I was really surprised about that. And again, just going back to the whole cloud forest, they ain't making more. These things that are disappearing aren't coming back, certainly not in our lifetime, especially. And now's the time to see them. Truly, these places are disappearing at an alarming rate. And especially when you talk to the people who live there, and they can tell you how they've seen it change in their lifetime. It's just a matter of how to slow it down, right? How can we mitigate this? How can we get more people involved? What can we do to stimulate interest in these areas and in the local economy there while we're at it?
If you love mushrooms, and especially my audience, if you guys love learning about psilocybe and rare active mushrooms, I would say this is the spot. This is one of the most dense, fungally diverse, psilocybe rich, active rich regions in the world. And it might not always be that way. Come check it out. Understand what we understand. And as a sort of a byproduct of all that, you get to hang out with people who love mushrooms as much as you. You get to make real friends. I mean, we've had people who went on that trip who've gone back down there since. And because we didn't hide our guides from anybody, because we actively encourage our guides to make friends with the people that are on these trips, they're able to reach out, through our WhatsApp channels and all that stuff, and hang out with these guides and go have fun and do other things. And truly, not just form friendships with us as the owners of the company, not just making friends amongst the travelers, but literally making friends with the local people down there. That to me is just what it's all about. I am absolutely here to help build this community up and really see what we're doing on these trips as just an extension of that, a really cool, really amazing extension of all that.
Well, the longer I've been in this community, the more I've seen it is global. I mean, you've got people literally from almost every country in the world doing mycology. So, I mean, it really can bring people together that ordinarily might never even talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, and to me it was so interesting that, there weren't cliques, right? There weren't just like groups of people that just kind of went on their own. And the fact that, it was such a diverse group of people. And we're not talking about just age range, socioeconomic range, but just like mushroom range. We had everything from like master cultivators, who might not have ever picked a wild mushroom in their life, to people who knew nothing about cultivation but had been on a trip with me, or had picked mushrooms, in their home state here in the U.S. And it was, I think we had a little bit of, I think before the trip we were kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say worried, but it was definitely on our mind, like, how is this going to work? Like, this seems like two different, worlds, right? Of like this cultivation, especially, people who are really into cubensis cultivation, and then you have other people who know nothing about that, but like, wild, finding wild mushrooms, like, man, where are we going to connect? And we were just hoping that the whole thing would work out, and it absolutely did, and it worked out like that, like in an instant.
Even though there's definitely more attention on mushrooms now than there ever has been, it is still an odd thing. And so the minute that you get to actually connect and hang out with these people that like the thing you like, how do you not get along? I mean, there were absolutely some completely different personalities in our group, and it did not matter. We were all so happy to be hanging out with people who wanted to be talking about mushrooms as much as we do, that it was just like an unwritten rule. This is such a rare, special thing that we get to do. We're just all going to get along and have a good time. And everybody really just had the time of their lives. It was so cool to watch. I am very excited just to see the guides are building relationships with one another. They're hanging out with each other, throughout the year, and connecting and strengthening their friendships. And they're getting better at being guides. They're getting better at connecting with everybody, and I'm really excited for this year. I think this year is going to be something quite special. And then I'm just hoping that after this year we can get to a point as a company where we can then look at, okay, what's the next place that we want to take people to, and start building upon that. I was surprised how many people from last year's trip are showing an interest in going this year. So guys, if if you're thinking about going, like I said, it's, you can reserve your spot for $500 and get that spot reserved. If you don't have all the money right now, it's fine. My guess is as time goes on, we're going to really build like a crew of people that say, where next? I just talked to a guy a few days ago who went on the trip and was like, all right, Geeky, you just let me know where we're going next. I'm ready to go.
And I think we all talked to several people last year too, just because this idea kind of came out of nowhere. We were trying to wrap our heads around starting the business, and all of the getting all of our ducks in a row as far as that goes. That it was kind of last minute. There were a couple people last year who were just like, oh, it's just can't make this happen. Like, I've already have my vacation plan. I'm going somewhere else, or I don't have a passport, or I don't have enough money. Gosh, I wish I would have known about this before I got my tax return, 3 months ago. And so, yeah, that was one of our goals this year too, is like, let's get this going much sooner, given that there is a lot more time now between when we're going to release this video and the trip. There's going to be a lot more interest in it, I would say. And so if people are, if this is on your mind, don't hesitate, because we're only doing one. And, if you miss out, it's going to be 2026. So it's a long time from now.
Our cap last year, we've actually pulled that down after doing the trip nearly booked full, but not quite booked full. We realized that there's kind of a right number of people to have on the trip. So there's definitely a limited number of spots. When they're full, they're full. And if you guys want to come hang out with Don King for a week, if you've hung out with him before and you had a blast, I can tell you're gonna have the time of your life doing it for a week. I got a few people who are like, yeah, man, I just want to come hang out. I want to see some cool stuff and get to know MycoGeeky. You get to do it. If you've been watching Natural State, who absolutely is, for me, the everything about why I started this podcast, which was to just give people information as quickly as possible, get them growing mushrooms, and just to watch Natural State just in record time go from not growing mushrooms to breeding and crossing and being just a pillar of what it means to be a good breeder and vendor in the community. I like there, people want to come meet you and see what you're all about.
I want to meet everybody too. It's a blast. That's truly, that has been my favorite part of all of this. Every single trip, we've been there 3 times now. This will be the 4th, and every single time it's the people. That's what makes it so special. Sure, we're there for mushrooms. Sure, mushrooms are an integral part of a lot of the activities, but there were people there who really didn't know anything about mushrooms. We had people on the trip who did not know anything about mushrooms, and they had a blast.
And the people who did not know a lot about mushrooms knew a lot more by the end of that week. It's basically as much information as you want to take in. And there were some people who, they were fine just wandering around, finding things, maybe getting things ID'd. That wasn't their focus. 100% fine. Other people were trying to take the best photos to have these things identify, wanted to know everything that they found. That's fine too. I mean, it's like, what I liked about it is that so many people were on so many different levels, and it worked for everybody. Like, pick our brains, let's hang out for a week and talk about mushrooms. That's just what we want to do, and we just want that opportunity for everyone.
All right, guys. Now that you've heard from the MycoTreks team about what makes this trip so special, let's dive deeper into the experience with one of the driving forces behind it all, my buddy Don King. Don's been foraging and teaching for decades, and in this next segment, he's going to share what makes foraging in Mexico's cloud forest a truly unique adventure. Let's jump in.
So I've been running mushroom hunts for about 17 years, guided hikes, in Ohio, all over Ohio. And, there's a big difference between what you're going to find in Ohio and what you're going to see in Mexico. Well, with some exceptions. What's really exciting to me about Mexico the first time I visited was not only seeing all these brand new species, right? Seeing all of these mushrooms that I have never seen, at least in real life before, but seeing a lot of familiar things. You're gonna go there and you're gonna see chanterelles, you're gonna see porcinis and boletes and amanitas, woodier mushrooms, literally the same exact things that we also have here in Ohio. So to me, that was such an interesting thing. It kind of took a lot of the guesswork away and made it, made it more. It felt a little bit like home. I felt like I was in an exotic place, because of course you are, but boy, you're going through and you're seeing, oh wow, those look like oyster mushrooms. Those look like the same ones I found in West Branch State Park in Ravenna. They are. But then right next to it will be something you will never see in the United States, or at least not in Ohio. So yeah, I guess, like, to me, it's a, there's this familiarity, but also the wide openness of what you might find in a cloud forest. Again, some kind of, a completely different bioregion than what we're in here in Ohio. So I started doing, mushroom hikes in Ohio couple of hours on an, weekend afternoon, people started to get, really interested in that. Same people kept coming back. Like, hey, I had a lot of fun, but man, did we find a lot of mushrooms. And it's really hard to learn this many mushrooms in a couple of hours. So I started doing more hikes, started to do weekend camping trips as well. And so these things sort of evolved, and moving from a 2 hour, 2.5 hour, 3 hour hike on a Saturday to spending an entire weekend searching for mushrooms is an entirely different ball game. I mean, here we get to see the mushrooms maybe in different stages of growth. Like, here's the ones that you see on Friday that are just popping up are opened up and large and ready to go on Sunday morning. And so there was this, this sort of this idea of being able to see the mushrooms evolve, see the environment evolve, even if it was only for a couple of days. And so from there, it was always on my mind, in the back of my head, to do a longer trip, to do something where we could really, 2 days, 3 days is fine over a weekend, but to fully immerse ourselves in mushrooms in a place that is just teeming with mushrooms was just like an absolute dream of mine. And so now being able to take people to Mexico and spend an entire week in the same location, not only in a beautiful hotel, right? I mean, this thing is, the grounds are absolutely beautiful and immaculate. Mushrooms everywhere, right? In the grass, in the woods, along the side of the road, in stumps, in logs, everywhere. But to go from, just taking people on a couple of hours or even a couple of day trip to now spending an entire week with people, just the overall experience of that, even for me, as the host and not a guest, was really, really powerful. The thing that I keep thinking about a lot about last year's trip is the fact that we're still everybody's still in contact for the most part with each other. People really built. There was a real sense of community that was being built. I could feel that right away. I mean, within a couple of hours of meeting everybody, you just had this vibe of, this is going to be an amazing week. Like, this is going to be good. And by the end, people were exchanging their own phone numbers and emails and talking about getting together again and visiting people that they met on this trip. I thought, bringing together people from, Ohio, maybe New York, Michigan. I did have some people come all the way from Tennessee once to do a weekend with me. But now to be able to bring together people from not only all over the United States, but all over the world, including the people that, we have down in Mexico, that are just going to like help us find these mushrooms and teach us about all of these different things. To me, it is like on steroids, that community on steroids. It's like nothing that you're going to experience. I could open up my WhatsApp here, and we have this WhatsApp text that's been going on since last year's trip, and it is active. Every couple of days, people are still sending photos of things and talking about, again, visiting people that they met. And here's me and Leslie at this event. And here are these people over here. That to me was also just an experience. The food at this place, the authentic food that we provide, the coffee that is grown right there on that farm, the eggs that you're eating for breakfast are from there. There's nothing like this. This is not, it's not camping for sure, right? We're not staying in tents. So for people who are a little averse to that, which, hey, that's me. The older I get, every year that goes by, I don't want to sleep on that air mattress in a tent. Give me a nice, comfy bed. But anyway, yeah, just having this home base that is absolutely beautiful in the middle of a cloud forest that is really not too far from the actual city there too. it's like the best of both worlds. It's like you're in this little nook of beauty right next to a major city. It's just something else, so it's like everything's at your fingertips there. It is a not only a mycological experience but a cultural experience as well. So I guess I would say my fascination with mushrooms really began on the in the culinary realm. Like I was seeing all these mushrooms growing in my yard, and they were very cool. They were very different. Looked different ones all throughout the year, but my thought kept going back to which of these are edible, I wonder. They can't all be toxic, right? Like I didn't know anything about mushrooms at this point. This was probably 20 years ago. And it was really that culinary aspect that drew me in. And so, yeah, I guess, moving from just having pretty much wild mushrooms at my fingertips whenever I found them, I really began getting interested in growing mushrooms too, or in the idea of cultivated mushrooms, buying them from vendors at the farmer's market, getting these mushrooms that I've never had before. Some that grow wild here in Ohio, I just hadn't found them maybe at that point. And so beginning to experiment with that in the different ways of, these mushrooms can be used just kind of led me on and kept pushing me down this path. And now as technically director of mycology at Epiphany Mushroom Company in Akron, I'm also in charge of all of the culinary aspects of that company. So everything from creating recipes for seasonings and things like upcoming products like jerky and taco filling and pasta mixes, all these different sort of things that are going to be like pantry ready. And having access to all of these great mushrooms that we grow at Epiphany has also just been amazing. At any given point, grabbing some shiitake, grabbing some chestnuts or pio pino or whatever it is, and beginning to experiment has really also opened my eyes. At Epiphany, we also have been hosting quite a few groups. The other day, we had a group of kids from Akron through an Ohio State program, Youth Urban Agriculture. These are kids who are, in their teens, but they're interested in agriculture, and a lot of them are interested in growing their own mushrooms at some point, possibly opening up their own mushroom farms. So I got to cook a giant vat of oyster mushroom stroganoff for them, which was just delicious. And even the people who were running the program were just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they were so into this mushroom stroganoff." I mean, everyone was in line coming back for more. You have this idea of, this sort of mycophobia in the United States, especially of people who just don't, are afraid of mushrooms, maybe not afraid of them, but they're not interested in them culinarily because of the flavor or the texture. They've only had canned mushrooms. They've only had these ones from the store. And all of a sudden it just broadens your horizons when you start to eat these mushrooms. And so it was really exciting to see that. I kind of felt the same way when we were in Mexico and got to visit Hongos de Cofre. So like super high altitude hike that we did for an entire day with local people, many indigenous women who were taking us around, helping us to find the mushrooms, and then fed us the most amazing, delicious meal that we probably had on the entire trip. I mean, using mushrooms I had never had before. Matsutake. I've been looking for that thing for forever. I mean, we don't really live in Matsutake region right here in Ohio. There are some that do exist, but man, to have a soup that was made out of this, and we're not talking something that's ripped off of freaking Pinterest, right? Or like this isn't a recipe that that somebody saw on TikTok. These are traditional recipes made by these women, probably handed down from generation to generation. And it was so interesting to eat all of these amazing dishes. Some were spicy, some weren't. Some were tomato based, some weren't. It was just the most I don't know, the most eye opening experience, and especially seeing some of these mushrooms used in ways that I really hadn't thought of. The Caesar amanita soup. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of that. Like I I generally with those will eat them raw, kind of as like a little salad with a drizzle of lemon and olive oil, or maybe a really gentle saute. Never would have thought of throwing those in a soup to cook for several hours. But here we are. Here I am eating this thing and being like, wow, I want to do this now. So even someone like me who I've been cooking with mushrooms and luckily feel privileged to have the a lot of access to a bunch of wild mushrooms. I've probably eaten 120 different species of wild mushrooms, I think, by the last time I counted. But to still be kind of like immersed in this experience of having these dishes that I had never had before and wouldn't have even crossed my mind, that was spectacular as well. And it was this experience was, I think, one of almost everybody's most favorite, probably because of just the fact that it was the food, right? It was the community, everyone sitting around after hiking up hills and down hills for a couple of hours and coming back to this nice hot meal with warm tortillas and hot soup, and hot coffee and chocolate. That's where it's at. I just think it's such an experience. It's we could sit here and talk about it and try to describe it all day long, but it is one of those, you have to be there. Like, you have to experience it yourself. No amount of words can even describe it. You want to talk about adventure. This region of Mexico, the things that you're going to see, the things that you're going to do in a short week, and again, is going to be short. Everybody who went last year wished it wasn't over, right? It was like, please don't make us go home. But yes, obviously we have to. First of all, just walking around the grounds of the hotel, right? Just experiencing these orchids and the ferns and beautiful mushrooms, to seeing these exotic things. But wait, there's more. We're going to go hiking through a cow pasture today. Yeah, I'm going to see psilocybe that I've never seen in person before, growing in their natural environment. I'm going to see all of these different things, just everywhere. Oh, and that isn't enough for you? Okay, let's hike to the top of an extinct volcano for the day. Let's do that. And then for the adventurous, let's hike down into it and see what is going on down there. Oh, that wasn't enough for you? Oh, you didn't like the fact that literal clouds were rolling in at waist level and dipping down into this extinct volcano? Oh, well, let's go to an old growth cloud forest and hike up there and have an amazing meal grown locally in the woman's garden who lives up there. Oh, that wasn't your thing? Well, there's some amazing markets in Xalapa, the most delicious food made from the freshest ingredients you'll ever see. I mean, we're talking about there's something for everyone. And I think a lot of people can be very trepidatious about, first of all, getting out of their comfort zone. I mean, obviously, like, that's a natural thing for people who had never been to Mexico. It was amazing to watch to see their transformation. Yeah, people became very familiar and fell in love with the place. I mean, from several people who came to this trip because of me, who had been on hikes with me before or camping weekends, and they saw me promoting this and were like, "Hey, this is something I really want to do. I've been looking for this kind of adventure and to spend more time with you and to spend more time with like-minded people." And many of these people want to come back again this year. And this is how powerful and special that trip was. And so that tells me everything I need to know about, what we did and how we did it. So yeah, I mean, if you've been on a hike with me in the past, or have interacted with me online in mushroom identification groups, or similar mushroom growing groups on Facebook, if you are up for an adventure, this is the adventure of a lifetime. And I think, the reason to consider doing this is, first of all, you only live once, right? Like, do all the things that you can do. Um, get out of your comfort zone a little. Come out with us, with local people, with Geeky and me and Natural State, who have been there, 3 times now. I think it'll probably be our 4th time in the same region. We're building a familiarity with this place. The people we have on the ground down there are just waiting to teach us and to teach you. And so I think what's kind of interesting for people who would come on this trip, who know me or have been on hikes with me before, is I'm learning too, right? I know a lot of these mushrooms. A lot of them are the same ones that we have, maybe a slightly different species, but the same genus, they look the same as what we would find here in Ohio. And that makes me comfortable. I can get out there and identify a lot of mushrooms. But I mean, just like Ohio, we have thousands of mushrooms in Ohio. I certainly don't know them all. A lot of them are fairly rare, but I regularly come across ones I don't know. Having people on the ground, having local experts down there to fill in the gaps. I would feel a little odd if I were taking people on a trip by just myself, or just people from the United States who didn't know these mushrooms as well as the locals. And so to me, that is another key factor here. Again, get out of your comfort zone, get that passport ready, and get ready to find and eat some amazing mushrooms, some that are going to be again familiar to you, and some that you'll never see outside of a cloud forest in Mexico. It's just not going to happen. So that's it. Get out there and get out with us, and you'll be the happy people holding up these amazing mushrooms in the photos, instead of just looking at the photos of those people having the time of their life.
All right, now that we've heard from Don about the thrill of foraging in Mexico's cloud forest, let's shift gears a bit. Next up, we've got Natural State Mycology, who not only brings years of foraging experience, but also a personal journey of healing through the power of magic mushrooms. Let's dive into his story and explore how fungi can transform more than just your foraging skills. All right, man. So why don't we go way back? Because I think this is a really important aspect of who you are, a perspective that you bring to our team, and definitely resonates with a lot of people who watch this show. Talk a little bit about that period of your life where you were struggling with addiction.
Yeah, man. So opiates were my drug of choice, and I fortunately was never an IV drug user or anything like that. It started my my kind of fascination with them started pretty young. I was prescribed them at like age 3 or 4 for tubes and adenoids. Tubes in my ears, getting adenoids removed, and then like 6 or 7 years old, I had a more complex surgery. Again, I'm pretty sure was prescribed opiates. And even at that young age, I remember thinking like, oh, that's kind of nice. And, later in life, prescribed them again. At that point in time, they prescribed them for anything. You have a toothache, they gave you some hydrocodone, for a child, which is, thinking back is just, and of course my parents didn't know any better. So, progressing into adulthood, naturally developed an issue as I was, kind of getting into adulthood, experimenting with partying and, trying different drugs, dabbling here and there. I tried oxycodone, and yeah, it just kind of sent me into throughout my adult life, despite having a pretty successful career, I was very much a functional, heavy duty addict. I got to the point where at my worst, I was using probably 300 to 400 milligrams of oxycodone a day, and or 300 or so milligrams of methadone a day, just depending on kind of what stage I was at in withdrawals. And that was really just to kind of maintain. It was no fun at that point. So many can relate to that. There's so many people who have been through that and are still going through that. The methadone clinics, initially, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day who's been on it for a while. Initially, while it does help in kind of giving people a sense of normalcy and getting people back into the swing of life, it's not meant to be a forever thing or a cure, which is how they treat it. Is more like, here's the solution to this problem. We're going to heavily medicate people, and they're just going to be content with everything being so-so. And so that's where I was at. And I realized, I can't keep doing this forever. Number one, it's costly, and you're handcuffed to a medical clinic and to a prescription that's not easy to obtain and heavily regulated. So it's difficult in a lot of aspects. And so I had already been for about 6 to 8 months tapering off of the medication, but it was getting increasingly hard as I got towards the end of that, tapering off of methadone treatment. And I had been on it for 5 years at this point. My daily dose was 150 for most of those years, 150 milligrams, which is a substantial amount. And so I had gotten down to the point where I was at 30 or so milligrams and decided to give mushrooms a try, just in hearing more about them in the media. I was already really into mushrooms from a foraging standpoint. I had been since my late teens. Just really like to learn about foraging gourmets and not the most knowledgeable, but I enjoy it a lot and I love being outdoors. So it was just kind of a natural tie-in of, oh my gosh, well, if this can help me with this problem in my life, why wouldn't I give it a go? At best at worst, they're benign. I've taken them before when I was younger. I know they're not going to cause me any harm. So yeah, I gave them a shot, and the impact was life-changing. It took something from me that I thought could never go away. I thought I was forever just destined to have that monkey on my back, if you will. I just figured that's just how, I was born with this addictive tendency, and I'm just going to struggle with this for the rest of my life. I'd resigned to it.
So let me ask, what really changed?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that, because I think it's really important for people to note that taking some mushrooms is not going to, in and of itself, change you or your life, right? They're not going to do something that's not already within you, that desire has to already exist, right? And so I was already at a place where I very much wanted to be free of this and have this burden off of my shoulders. So going into my first macro dose, and I think that's important too, I have never personally microdosed. I don't know that for certain things it's as beneficial, at least in the short term, right? I think sometimes for certain, especially for addiction and heavy addiction, I think a good heavy macro dose, if you're in the right frame of mind for it, and if you're grounded enough for it, which is important to say, I think that's by far the most beneficial. But I took one very heavy macro dose of about 5 grams. And after that, I ended up dosing myself for the rest of my tapering. I had saved medication from the clinic. I had set some back so I wouldn't have to keep going to the clinic. And that was when I knew something was different, was that I was able to take that methadone that I could very easily get super high on at that point, because and you can get high on methadone despite contrary belief or despite what people who go to those clinics may tell you. You can get very high on it. And so, I could have done that. And I found myself one day, I found a large wafer of it on the floor, and I was down to a very fractional dose at that point. And it had gotten dropped. My wife had dropped it, getting it for me one morning. And my first instinct was to take a picture, send it to her, and go, "Hey, this was on the floor. I just wanted you to know." And I put it back where it was. And that was when I knew, oh my gosh, something is different in my brain, right? Because old me it would have gone straight down the hatch, and here I am now 2+ years later. I've been completely free of methadone now. And so that in and of itself continues to inspire me each and every day.
Cool, man. Well, we've lightly touched on some of that stuff before, but I really wanted to revisit it because we were talking at one point in time about, this trip with this group of people went this way. And I think every trip we go on, it's going to have a new and unique dynamic to it. I think it's going to have a different tone. Just the dynamic is always going to change. And I think as we go to more places, the tone of each trip will be different as well. And I think it's really important. I just want people to understand that there's somebody a part of this tour operation that has that perspective, that has truly experienced the power of mushrooms. I mean, mushrooms help my ADHD, but it's just a different thing than having mushrooms literally save your life, get you off of something that people almost never get off of. So I value that, having you as a friend, having that experience. Oftentimes when I'm asking for feedback on stuff, in my head, it's like, I want to hear what Natural State has to say about that. So I think the three of us make a really interesting, we all really get along, but we are absolutely not the same person.
No,
like absolutely different people, and yet somehow really, really gel, really click. I think we bring different things to the table. And at the end of the day, it has been an absolute joy to hang out with you guys, do this, work on all this stuff. I can't wait to do it again this year.
Me too, man. I'm pumped.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for doing this, and it's gonna be a good time.
Hope to see you guys all there.
After hearing how mushrooms have played such a transformative role, let's take a closer look at the local perspective. Next, we're joined by Victor, a passionate biology student and one of our local guides. Victor's deep knowledge of mycology and his love for the land will give us an insider's look at what makes the Xalapa region so special. Let's hear what he's got to say. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Been a minute since we talked. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, I'm very excited to do this. I'm very happy to see you, man. Yeah, since MycoTreks.
Yeah, man, it was fun. So I we would have never found you if it wasn't for Gabe. Gabe said, I got a friend, you got to meet him. He's so cool. He's a biology student. He loves mushrooms. He loves to cultivate. And I'm like, oh, we definitely want to meet this guy. Who's this guy? So we met you in March, and we were like, this is great. He speaks English. He knows about mushrooms. Just seems like a really cool guy. So it was absolutely unanimous. We're like, we got to have this guy on our trip this summer. So I want to hear from your side of things. What was it like when Gabe told you about us? Like, what did you think? Were you like, who are these guys? What is this going to be like? What were your expectations versus how things turned out to be?
Okay, sincerely, at the first time when I heard my friend tell me about all this, about North Americans that come to Mexico and do some researching and look for mushrooms just because you love it. I didn't believe it because it's hard to found people that love mushrooms like that. Like when you come to from another country to Mexico just to see mushrooms, it's hard to find people like that. And at the first time I didn't believe it. I yeah, I didn't believe it. I thought it was
You thought Gabe ate too many mushrooms that day or something. You're like, nah, dude.
yeah, I thought like, oh man, it's maybe they want to buy some houses here in Mexico and just the thing, no. But no, I was wrong, man.
Right now we just like going down there and looking at all your guys' cool mushrooms, eating amazing Mexican food, hanging out with cool jalapeno people. Yeah, we love it down there. So for you, what was that experience like hanging out with us for that week, getting to know, all the people that came down, exploring more of Jalapa than you'd probably ever seen? How was that week for you?
I love the experience, man, because I know my Jalapa because I grow there. So when some people come to see Jalapa and see the beautiful what is Jalapa, I'm very proud of that, man. And the mushrooms, it's what I am studying. It's what I love. So it's great. I think it's great that you come to Jalapa and see mushrooms and so many places, man. Because I remember that we went to eat a lot of places, never the same place, never the same place. Every time we come to eat some food, it was a different place. So it was great. It was a great experience.
So for you, for all the things that we went and did that week, what was your favorite day?
Maybe when we found the saps, do you remember the
Yeah, yeah,
Zapotecorum?
yeah.
Yeah, maybe or Neo Jalapeños. I don't know, man. That's I have a lot of favorite styles. Yeah, that I cannot take one favorite. Yeah, maybe when we found the Neo Jalapensis too next to the river. Do you remember?
Yeah, so that was great. I'm gonna tell you, for me, I really loved the high altitude day with the people at Perote.
Oh yeah,
I
the
really liked that day
Amanitas.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, Amanita. Well, the day from we found out some Amanitas were one of my favorites too because Amanita, it was one of my favorite mushrooms, and that day is the first time I see an Amanita in nature in the wild. Yeah,
Good. I'm glad you had a good time. Everybody enjoyed you. I got all sorts of great feedback. Everybody loved talking to you and learning things from you. So really looking forward to this year. We're gonna go to some of the same places, but we gotta go to somewhere, some new spots too. So
yeah,
we'll be exploring. So yeah, this year we're gonna bring some more people down. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna eat more good food. I mean, I'm sure you already know this, but I really, really think Jalapa is an amazing city. It is so
yeah.
cool. It's so unique, so much culture, so much energy. The arts is so vibrant there. I'm jealous you get to grow up there.
You can live here too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, man. We'll see. If Geeky gets an early retirement, I'm definitely gonna be heading down there. So my wife and I, we celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary a little ways back, and just for a few days we went down there, and because I wanted my wife to see what this place was all about, and it rained the entire time, and my wife still loved Jalapa. Could not say, was like, I can't wait to go back. I understand why you love it down there. Gonna have to bring the wife and kids down another time and just hang out and explore more of the city, try to find more places to take people to. um it should be fun. Now, didn't one of our guests from the States come down and hang out with you guys?
Oh yeah, the friend we made in MycoTreks. Oh yeah.
Yeah, man, that's he sent photos, and I'm like, I just thought it was so cool. Because one of the things we really want is we want all the local guys, you guys, to build relationships with everybody that goes on the trip, so that if they want to come to Mexico by themselves without us, they can reach out to you guys on WhatsApp and hang out and have a good time, and yeah, all that stuff. So when I saw that, I was really happy to see that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, we made a lot of friends in MycoTreks. I mean, it was Johnny, right? You're yeah, it was Johnny and Happy Ify. Do you
Happy Hi-Fi, yeah, yeah,
Happy
yeah,
Hi-Fi? Yeah, I
yeah,
don't remember the name of
yeah,
that guy, but it's a very cool guy too.
yep.
You know?
Cool, man. I'm glad you had a good time. We're gonna have another good time this summer. It's gonna be great. Maybe by the third MycoTreks trip, you'll be graduated. You'll be maybe in a
Yeah.
PhD program somewhere. You know, we got Victor early, guys. You know, we got him before he gets his PhD in mycology and takes over the world of mycology and starts pumping out all this great research. So yeah, we love having you, man. It's great. I'm glad. I'm really glad that we met Gabe, and I'm really glad that Gabe told us about his buddy Victor. So
Yeah, I'm really glad to know you guys. It's a great world. It's another world, you know, because here in Mexico, the mushroom world it's very close. It's very close, you know. We don't have like a community, a mushroom community like you in America. Yeah,
a lot of this community is still just online. That's
yeah,
why it's so cool to get together to go on this trip. I mean, you know, the nights after we were foraging that we got to hang out upstairs and you know, look at spores through a microscope and just talk to other cultivators. You know, those are really, those are great little moments.
yeah. All the time we're talking about mushrooms and cultivating, how to fruit, how to grow saps. You know, every all the time we're talking.
One day, if the cloud forests become endangered, you know, the things that cultivators figure out might be the thing that preserves a species.
That's happening right now.
Yeah, it's so hard because you have both climate change, you know, global warming, everything's getting hotter, but then you also have legal and illegal logging and deforestation. And then also just this last year, right? So many fires
Yeah,
because so many fires are just wiping things out. So these cloud forests are just getting more and more precious, especially old growth sections of the cloud forest that hold all these rare species. Yeah, anything that we can do to build an economy and an interest around preserving those kind of spaces is really important.
yeah, and I appreciate that because that's the only way we can do something with this problem. And someday it will disappear. Someday they're going to disappear.
Yeah, you got to figure out how to preserve these rare mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah. I feel more motivated when I see that lots of mushrooms are disappearing right now because of the climate change. The city expands and take more.
Urbanization.
Yeah, urbanization. Yeah, yeah. The urbanization is taking more and more parts of the wild, and we don't have mushrooms. That's why I want to study biologist, and I want to do a PhD because I think that I am doing something to preserve the mushrooms.
It's important for more and more scientists to keep talking about what's going on and what we should be doing because it's just, you know, we don't need another parking lot.
Yeah, exactly.
What we need is to preserve these really special places, these special habitats, all that stuff. So, and it takes people like you getting a PhD, and it takes groups like MycoTreks trying to help educate people and bring awareness around some of this stuff. So, we're all going to try to just do our part to take care of the things that matter to us, right? That's all we can do. All right, man. Well, this was a good little intro. Last year we didn't have you guys on the show, and this year we were like, we got to have all the guides on the show. The guides are awesome. They're amazing. We got to let everybody kind of, you know, get a peek and get to know everybody. So, thank you so much for joining me here briefly, letting people get a chance to know you. And I cannot wait to hang out with you in July, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I love this experience.
All right, now that we've heard from Victor about the importance of protecting cloud forests, let's dive into the Xalapa foraging experience itself. So, Gabe, one of our passionate guides, he brings a deep love for mushrooms and the land. He's been foraging in Xalapa for years and years and years. And in this next segment, he'll share what it's like to show travelers around his home turf.
Well, when I tried them, when I was just a teenager, I fell in love with the effect. I found it so fascinating how, well, a mushroom, a simple mushroom, can cause so much, right? Inside us. And I said, no, well, I have to study this. I have to know more, right? And when I found out, later I learned that there were more species that could be cultivated, that, well, everything. It was like I already knew what to focus on when I studied later on. I used to think that the good mushrooms were in Oaxaca, right? And when I found out they grew just around the corner, so to speak, right? Well, it was very fascinating for me. And it's a great opportunity to be able to go study them, to be able to collect them, try to cultivate them, and teach people, right? That there are plenty of mushrooms to learn about, quite a lot, and all the relationship it has with culture, because, well, there are many traces of indigenous peoples in the areas where these mushrooms are usually collected. And, well, it has a lot of connection with our ancestors, those of the Native Americans. If they have the opportunity to come, they will be able to. Now, you will really get to know another part of Mexico very different from Oaxaca, where not only is the mushroom culture not so overexploited, but it is also a bit more unknown for the local people, because even the places where I usually gather, or where people usually gather, I mean, the local people are unaware of the use of mushrooms, although I don't doubt that there are some people who do know about their use, right? But just the part about how Gordon wasn't, and, well, he found Maria Sabina, he could have found any other figure who would also have shared that knowledge with the world, which does not, well, as a local, I do not mind foreigners knowing about it, nor do I mind them experimenting or coming to learn about the little mushrooms. For me, it was very nice. They were one of the most pleasant people I could have met. I had an incredible time. I never thought they would like me, that I would get along so well with them. And I liked it a lot that they would show me. I had the opportunity to talk to many of those who came, and they shared many things about their culture with me. I shared many things from mine. It was something more than just the mushrooms. I mean, it's impressive how mushrooms can bring people together. But, well, honestly, having the experience of meeting them was very pleasant. I mean, I was delighted. I missed them a lot. They have no idea the emptiness they left me when it all ended. And I even wanted to cry. I mean, because even my wife told me that they were the nicest people she has ever known. Well, of my favorite moments, I have three in particular. Walking with the guys, doing the whole tour, finding so many different species that I had never seen before and rare for the region, seemed, well, very fascinating to me. Also, going with the girls who live there, sharing a meal with them, to get to know the place where they lived. Well, I want to go back. Honestly, I have tried to return, but I see no way to go back. And also, I really enjoyed another of the experiences we had in Monte Grande. We went to the cemetery. It was also a great moment because we were able to explore the place more thoroughly. I didn't know it very well. I had only been there briefly before. And the other the other moment I liked was a lot was when we went to collect edible mushrooms with the ladies in the Perote region, because it was another experience that it's not usually common for me to collect edibles, you know? It's more, I've always been one to collect them for others. And, well, it was something new for me. And doing it with people who came from another country was, well, the plus, it was something more pleasant and, well, nicer. I find it very pleasing the way they are handling it because they are incorporating the aspect of showing how our country truly is, how we Mexicans really are, how is our culture. And I find it very favorable that they live this experience so they don't stay with a bad image of the country because, well, really, our people are very nice. Yes, with all the people who came last year, where they were delighted with everyone they had the chance to interact with. The truth is that Mexico is a country of very hardworking, warm people who like to welcome others and open their doors to them. Well, I feel that part of this tour is very. They show them in a very positive way what Mexico is like, what a part of Mexico is like.
Now that we've heard from Gabe about foraging in Xalapa, let's meet another key member to our guide team. Hector, one of our newest guides from Oaxaca, brings a fresh perspective and a wealth of knowledge to the trip. As both a guide and interpreter, Hector will help bridge the gap between cultures, adding another layer to this incredible experience. Let's dive into Hector's story. Give me a little background about who you are and how you stumbled into this Myco community.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally from Texas, Mexico border, Brownsville, Matamoros. Born on the American side, grew up on the Mexican side. So grew up my entire life speaking both Spanish and English. Yeah, and I tried mushrooms for the first time when I was probably about 12 or 13 years old, and then took a long hiatus from mushrooms for a really long time, and then got back into them probably around 2016 when I started cultivating my own. And that's how this whole thing started for me, right? Almost 10 years ago now. And yeah, I've been just slowly exploring, and I found your podcasts, started listening, tuning in, and then I joined your Discord, and then we started chatting. I saw that you were coming last year. I got excited about it, and then this year things have kind of fallen into place to where I can join you guys. So really excited about that.
We love going down there, but for right now, one thing that we learned on our trip, and we had a blast. Everybody had a blast. It was an amazing trip, but there were definitely times where we had a couple interpreters. Don King's partner came along, and she is truly fluent. She was born and raised in Colombia. And then we have a young guy named Victor who is just finishing up his biology degree. Super cool guy. His English is getting stronger, but he is not fluent in English, but he definitely he was helping us out. So one of the things that we assessed that we really wanted to strengthen going forward was we wanted to find more Mexican American, truly bilingual people who could not only serve as interpreters more frequently and give more guests more access to that, but really just have a perspective, not just being like a functional, Google interpreter, right? But actually have stories to tell and talk more about the culture and their experiences and all that stuff. So yeah, we got to talking and it just started making a whole lot of sense. I'm really looking forward to that. So maybe let's talk a little bit about just what you love about Mexico, Mexican culture.
Yeah, so for sure. So growing up on the border, I mean, I got to experience a lot of American culture, grew up with a lot of American TV. Um, Even on the Mexican side, we celebrate Thanksgiving and Halloween and things like that. That in central and southern Mexico is not the norm, right? Um, and now I've been spending a lot more time in southern Mexico and Oaxaca, particularly, and so I'm really enjoying the time that I get to spend in Oaxaca, and getting more into my own culture, and learning more about it. And it's so different, like from the north to now Oaxaca. It's such a different experience, but there's a lot of common traits that unite us all as Mexican. Um, so yeah, I think it's I think I certainly bring a unique perspective in that I can identify and understand the American nuance and culture, and the same on the Mexican side, right? And so I'm excited to see who we meet, and share my experiences and my culture from Mexico.
Love it, man. Yeah, it's it's one thing to find a bilingual interpreter. It's another to find somebody who also loves mushrooms and
Right.
loves active mushrooms and all that. So yeah, that's you definitely ticked all the boxes, and getting to know you, I was just like, this is the guy. Okay, we how do we get this guy down there? So I'm very excited. I think it'll be fun. I am. I know you've found some actives in Oaxaca, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get to give you even some experiences, see some species that you have not seen yet.
Yeah, for sure. So in Oaxaca, there's, to my knowledge, or what I've found, is about 3 different varieties. Um, and from what I've heard from talking to Gabe and a few other people, Veracruz has a whole lot more variety of actives than Oaxaca does.
Yeah, man. So one of our guests last year, she at one point goes, I didn't know we were gonna find so many of these magic mushrooms. And I was like, do you feel like we're overly focused on them? And she goes, no, they're amazing. She loved it. But yes, we definitely our guides are enthusiasts like most of the people who watch this show. And so we gotta find them, gotta find all the cool philosophies down there. We'll give you some experiences for sure. You're gonna see some mushrooms you never saw before.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. All right, talk to you soon.
All right, that's a wrap on today's episode. A huge thanks to everyone for joining me as we talked about the MycoTreks trip to Xalapa, Mexico, coming up this summer from July 13th through the 20th, 2025. This is going to be an unforgettable week, and I can't tell you how excited I am to spend it with some of you. Remember, the trip is just $27.99 if you grab that early bird special before March ends. Yeah, it's $200 off. And if you need to, a little extra time to save up, you can secure your spot with just a $500 deposit. Go check out MycoTreks.tours for more information. More than just foraging and fungi, this trip is a chance to meet like-minded people, build friendships, and truly connect in a community that's all about supporting one another. These relationships, these shared experiences, are more important than ever in today's world, especially as we build a mycosphere that's rooted in knowledge, care, and passion. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to meet people from my audience and to share the joy of mushrooms with all of you guys. I can't wait to see you on this amazing adventure. Let's make this summer's trip incredible, support the region, and continue to deepen our love for mushrooms together. If you got something out of this episode, do me a favor. Subscribe, hit the like button, and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want to help keep these deep dives coming, check out patreon.com/MycoGeeky. Join us and be a part of the mushroom movement. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the most epic mushroom discovery you've made? What's your best foraging story? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear about your adventures. Until next time, stay curious, stay cultivating, and as always, go grow some mushrooms.